Thanks indeed for keeping faith with us. The program is still this morning on ITV, broadcasting from your darling station, located here at the hilltop of Umpape district. My name is Iharuata. It's now time for us to talk aviation here. And we've talked about this oftentimes, and as it stands now, the hazy weather appeared not too friendly with aviation. You can't doubt that. I know for sure that on Monday before today at the airport at Sokoto, somewhat I was just lot afraid if we were going to take off. But somehow, after waiting for some hours, we took off, but the taking off was quite turbulent. I really discovered that it's not just cloud and thunderstorm that could lead to turbulence, but somehow a very excessive windy weather and very dusty weather can also lead to turbulence. Okay, it's now time for us to talk aviation. One man had spent his time to spend time with us every Monday from the hours of 8 to 8:30. That's the man on the screen, Mr. Godwin N.E.K. His contacts are all there for you to call him. He's given his line to call him, interface with him. He's given his email address. Is there. The website is there, the YouTube channel, and his Twitter handle. They are all there for you to interface. But the good news, he's here with us in the studio. Wonderful morning, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Very good morning, sir.
Oh, wonderful.
How was the postponement weekend?
Oh, very honestly, no Nigerian is finding it funny. It was very, expensive. I mean, still very expensive for all Nigerians. Imagine all the people that went to their various locations to cast their vote, and then only to be told that can happen. Are they going to be running back to their stations and then heading back all the way?
Before we start to talk about what we have for today, let's look at the aviation component to that postponement. When the INEC chairman briefed in the afternoon, he was very clear, according to him anyway, not very clear, according to him, that the issue of bad weather affected aviation, and that affected the delivery of electoral materials. And you heard him say that.
Yeah, I heard him say that. But the appropriate authority is saying no, there was no issue with weather. You heard that also, didn't you?
We heard that, but that's what the INEC chairman said.
Well, somebody between the two is not telling us the truth. That is the only way to explain it.
Because
both of them are both government agencies, and of course, if you ask me, I'll be given to believe in the weatherman more than the INEC man. It's not in the business of the INEC man to tell us about weather. If the weatherman says the weather is right, pilot, you can go, then it's as good as that. So, I mean, from where would INEC chairman would have gotten his information on
someone
weather?
Told him, as a professor, not a professor of meteorology, that the weather is bad. So we cannot. When you ask the boys, why don't you deliver material? And he told him the weather is bad.
That is speculation. If someone told you, the first question you want to ask is that person a weatherman? Where did he get the information from? And of course, these government agencies are interlinked. It would have been as easy as ABC for the chairman of INEC to pick up his phone and call the head of the section handling weather, and then get all the information required. And that's the whole essence of their being there. As a matter of fact, my dear viewers, it's not just about government agency to government agency. Every individual, even the farmers, have access to the weatherman. As a matter of fact, I am surprised that they haven't yet fully commercialized that bit of their services. If you need any information in any part of this country that has to do with weather, and that is useful to you, you have access to make a call, and they'll give you with pinpoint accuracy, what the weather will look like, and even give you a kind of extrapolation of what it will look like in the next hour, in the next 2 hours, in the next 1 day, and so on and so forth. So I am not given to believe in the INEC chairman on his weather report, because he has absolutely no way.
Because someone had said that throughout that period there was no flight cancellation.
And so that brings me also to what I noticed when a young lady representing the youth, you remember the young lady that asked a question and specifically demanded an apology, and the INEC chairman explained it away by saying, by using the word, I regret it, and I've taken responsibility and I want to make it clear.
That's not an apology.
That is not an apology. When you say you regret, it's for you, it's for your own good that you've regretted your action, so that you can behave better in the next, if given another opportunity. If you say I take responsibility, it is still for your own good that you've taken responsibility, because it preserves your honor and dignity. Now, the next one is, are you sorry about what you've done? And if you are, you must say, I've taken responsibility and I am very, very profusely sorry about this. Mr. Chairman, if you're watching this program, that is the correct thing. I found that attitude
somewhat not too
arrogant.
Okay.
Arrogant.
But instead it depends on the choice of words. Okay, let's quickly come back to...
You can't explain it any other way. English is English. It is what it is. And if you learned it in school and up until this age that we are, you must say it the correct way to convey the correct meaning. I regret my action. It's not an apology. I take responsibility. It's not an apology. It's all good for me that I have regretted my action, so that next time I behave better. If I take responsibility, I preserve my dignity and say, okay, the buck ends on my table, and so I am responsible for this. It's still mine. Now, what belongs to the other party is, I am profusely sorry. And so the INEC chairman has failed or refused to apologize. And that's very shameful.
Okay, let's come back now to what we started before some 2 weeks ago, and we're still following up on that. For sure, the Kaba story is still very fresh in our minds. That day it broke, and everyone just came out that Saturday, and no one could believe it, that the chopper carrying the vice president of the country, the second man, actually crashed at Kaba, Kogi State here, and everyone talked about it. So much analysis, we did that here, and today we want to look at the result. That day when we analyze it the Monday after, we'll be a lot careful that, look, let's not go make some mistakes here. Let's not go beyond what the Accident Investigation Bureau would likely be bringing forward here. There were 2 videos that came out that day. The first one, which is one of a chopper landing and landed falsely, and it crashed. That one was dismissed as a fake news, a false video that wasn't what happened at Kaba, because the Kaba field was extremely very, very sandy, very, very dusty, and we saw how that up there. The second video showing the plane on the ground, and some of the guys who even spoke from the field, I said no one would have been able to get the chopper because the dust was excessively very, 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 very heavy here. But today, we want to look at the result that came out from the Accident and Investigation Bureau, what they brought forward, what they told Nigerians here, vis-a-vis what Mr. Godwin Ike told us that very day, and it appears is just almost like 110% correct.
Yeah, very, very, absolutely correct.
Can we start?
Oh, sure. If you remember, I mentioned the issue of this awesome machine with its twisted rotors biting hard on air and sending down mass of air in a process known as downwash, and that generated a whole lot of sandy dust in the air that is being described by AIB as brownout. That is official word that the AIB used to describe what happened. But my own word was that the pilots instantly lost situational awareness. Both languages are saying the same thing. The pilot could not tell how high or low he was to the ground. He couldn't even tell where he was facing, or where and even the rate of vertical descent was not as accurate as should be because of that loss of situational awareness. And then what was more, from the AIB report as well, callings were made of the dropping of the helicopter up until 15 feet. Now you just imagine what could have happened for the pilot to let go his collective and then hit the ground, not as when you show us the one that you have. Let me show you. You remember I mentioned also that because of the weather situation, the helicopter might have been fluttering, and I described to you the nature of the word fluttering. Okay. And the AIB report has also confirmed that fluttering took place without necessarily using my word of fluttering. But what did he say? It landed on one side of his undercarriage. And it landed hard on one side, and then that was what happened. So by landing on one side, it was an indication that there was fluttering taking place. And hitting that hard could have been the pilot panicking that if he didn't get down quickly, he might end up coming down this way because of the fluttering nature of his.
Couldn't he have gone up again?
Well, yes, that's one of those things that you find in daredevil operations when you have a chance to do otherwise and you choose not to and you take the risk. Very, very good question. Now, let me explain to you further. If you just have this.
I know. In what do you call it now? In conventional plane, in aeroplane, when you're flying and you've attained a D1 speed, you must go into the sky and come back. But in case of this one, it can bite harder. As
a matter of fact, the collective has a twist throttle that looks like that of a motorbike. Yeah. You know the motorbike throttle? Yeah. Now, the difference in that of helicopter is why that of your motorcycle, you pull it towards you this way to fire on the engine. On the contrary, in the helicopter is the other way. Is the opposite direction.
Okay.
Rather than yes, to fire up the engine is the opposite, and it is attached to the collective, to the tip of the collective is that motorcycle type throttle. So it was actually as easy as ABC for the pilot to put on power while he pulled his collective. So by putting on power and pulling your collective, well, depending also on the rate of descent, if it was descending really fast, before those rotors could pick up and send down enough downwash to sustain the weight of the plane, perhaps it will be too late. Perhaps. So those are factors that the AIB will need to investigate a little more. The investigations are still going on. What all they did was release the preliminary findings, which tallied 100% with what I told you on this show, what I suspected could have happened under the circumstance that they landed.
While we analyze this, sorry we couldn't get the video. We got some videos from the President Muhammadu Buhari's landing and taking off at the helipad in Gusau, Zamfara State. We couldn't show you that, but maybe next week we'll show you all of those clips here. But let's now look at one thing here. I know for the question many will be asking the Villa Advance team is that, like the one we saw in Zamfara, the moment they got to the helipad, more than four firefighter trucks were all there wetting the ground.
Yes,
I know. I saw that here the Sunday before yesterday. I saw real wetting going on. So when we arrived at the helipad, then in Gusau at about the president was to touch down for 10 o'clock. We saw wetting going on by 8:30, and subsequently when they said the president had arrived Katsina, from where he took the chopper to Gusau, there was enough wetting that took place within 9:30 again. So much watering of the ground, 1 or 2, 3 tankers just at least are leaving its water there. And when he arrived, we only saw little dots. Why was that not done?
It's all, if you remember,
because the Kaba ground looks excessively dry.
And we read sound that will give you that brown out that the AIB described. We have a systemic problem. We are reactionary in our attitude. We don't go ahead of time, deploy, professionals to take appropriate steps ahead of time to stop trouble that we may run into. It's a systemic, thing. And what's more, updating in all departments of government and even huge, organizations, private organizations, people should be trained and retrained regularly. I have heard people complain that, all they do is go abroad in the name of training and all that stuff. When I hear people speak that language, I really feel sorry for this nation, because human development is more expensive than the cash you think we are doling out. Without an appropriate human development, this country can never transform. And I want to make, bold to say to you, Atta, if you were to move the people currently with the kind of mentality we have out of this nation and move in other people that have had the opportunity of getting the appropriate training and knowing how to do things the right way, in 18 months, you come to this land called Nigeria, you will not know it anymore, you will not recognize it, because it would have transformed very heavily. And so it's a call for us to reintroduce appropriate training of officials, especially in the government sectors, and ensure that those trainings are actually received. Because I tell you what, I know that a couple of times people go out for training, and all they end up doing is they never show up at the training ground. They do shopping, roll around in their beds, in their hotel rooms, have fun, enjoy themselves, and then come back, and nobody carries out audit to find out who really attended the course and who learned something from the course. They just come back, return to the office, save their extra costs that they didn't spend, feel good, they've made some good money, refreshed.
Turn in the report.
Turn in the report and walk away. There should be an audit. If a group of people go out to get some training concerning some aspects of their job that they need to know, a little better, as soon as they come back, there should be an auditing committee that must interview them, set a little examination from what they were supposed to have learned, and find out who truly attended. And those that didn't attend should be asked to return their extra code and the cost of their travel. If we don't do that, no one gets serious. And so it's a systemic thing. And it's easy, really. As easy as ABC to fix this nation. I do and beat my chest to say, fixing Nigeria is as easy as ABC. It takes discipline and putting our feet down, ensuring that what is right is what's going on, and get on with it. That's the only way. Otherwise, we just continue behaving the way we're doing, and running around this vicious circle.
The guys who ought to go there, the team who ought to go there, the team who ought to see and ensure that the VP will land well.
It's either they were totally ignorant of the consequence of the terrain where they were coming to land. You remember on that day when I gave my analysis, I said to you, just imagine for 1 second after that I was a member of the team that went ahead to check out where they would be landing. Of course, I would have said to somebody, hey, Mr. President's chopper can, or Vice President chopper can land here. It's likely to create a problem for him. So, Godi, what do we do? Get some, tankers to get this place as wet as possible and settle these, brown, sandy soil, and ensure that as the helicopters come landing, they don't shun up dust that will deny the pilots their situational awareness. I would have definitely, from my knowledge, put my feet down and say, hey, this must happen. But there was no one available there with the
But that place
the
has
appropriate
that
knowledge
place has the written of several officials, both the army, both the DSS, both the police, both even the protocol staff from the VP office at the villa. Everyone was gathered there. It was one massive place. Sure, there was even a convoy of vehicles waiting to take him round Akaba.
Atta, let me tell you something that will shock you. You remember when the French airplane that was traveling from Brazil to Paris crashed over the Atlantic and slaughtered over 300 people? You remember that?
That's very clearly.
And I think that was in 2009. When young pilots were interviewed at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, one of them was ruthlessly honest. And he said, no one taught them about angle of attack and the consequence of having your airplane and what you should do when you were experiencing a stall with a high angle of attack. I was shocked. I'm not saying to you that somebody told me. I watched on CNN and I saw the young pilot who was interviewed confessing that nobody told him anything about angle of attack, while he was training to fly. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there's still a lot that practicing pilots need to learn. And learning is a continuous process. It gave me shock, but I got over it and said, well, the young man was quite honest. Nobody taught him. And it simply tells you that there's still a whole lot.
Don't we have any clip for today?
We do have the AIB report that we can actually
let's go through
quickly.
very quickly.
If we have the AIB report, you will see Lotero, the chief executive, right there, addressing the world on their preliminary findings. We can just read through very quickly. And yes. So that is the committee of the accident investigation bureau team led by Mr. Lotteru. You can see them right there. Move to the next and let's read quickly. I just hope my viewers will be able to see those letters, but I can read and they can also listen to me. The Accident Investigation Bureau Nigeria has released a preliminary report on an Augusta Westland AW139 helicopter with nationality and registration marks 5N-CML, owned and operated by Caverton Helicopters Limited. The accident occurred on the 2nd February 2019 in Kaba, Kogi State, Nigeria. The Bureau commenced its post-occurrence assessment on the 3rd February 2019 under the provisions of Civil Aviation Investigation of Air Accident and Incidents Regulations 2016 and International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO Annex 13. Engineer Akin Olateru, that's the man you see in the middle there, Commissioner/CEO, while addressing the media, the agency's Lagos office emphasized the fact that investigation had not been finalized. This report is not the final report, but facts gathered from the site of crash, witness statements, flight recorder, and preliminary inspection, he said. The purpose of this preliminary report is to provide details of the initial facts, discussions, and findings surrounding the occurrence, which includes information gathered from witness statements, flight recorders, health and usage monitoring system, formerly known as HUMS, HUMS data, flight data monitoring, FDM data, and preliminary inspection of the accident site and wreckage. That, I mean, just outline all the sources of information from which they put out this preliminary report. The helicopter departed Abuja at about 13:46 local time, which is 1:46 p.m. for Kaba, Kogi State, on a VIP chartered flight Nigeria 002, NGR 002, on a visual flight rule. Remember the flight rules, you have the visual and you have the instrument flight rules. So in this case, the pilot needed to see his surroundings and needed to see where he was going. So that's a visual flight rule, okay? Fondly known as VFR, flight plan, with 12 persons on board, including the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, his entourage, and 3 crew members, captain, co-pilot, and an engineer. During the landing at about 50 feet to touchdown, you remember I had mentioned 50 meters, but they are saying 50 feet. We're going to rely on their own information. But however, those rotors were shunning down, mass of downwash. Okay. So during the landing at about 50 feet to touchdown, a heavy brownout enveloped the helicopter, and the crew lost visual contact with the ground, confirming what I told you. All right? At about 14:34, that's about 2:34 p.m. local time, the helicopter touched down. The helicopter touched down hard on the right main landing gear and rolled over to the right. The crew carried out emergency landing procedures, which included immediate engine shutdown, fuel shut off, battery switch off, and generator switch off, while explaining why they were able to avoid fire, and that's quite professional. All occupants of the helicopter were evacuated uninjured. The helicopter was substantially damaged. Weather was reported to be good. Listen to that. Weather was reported to be good. From the report findings, the helicopter had a valid certificate of airworthiness. Coveting Helicopters Limited, however, did not conduct site survey of the landing field prior to this flight and did not carry out safety and risk assessment, bringing us to what we had touched on initially. Did not carry out safety and risk assessment of the landing area prior to dispatch of the flight. The flight crew were properly licensed and adequately rested to operate the flight. Well and good. In the report, AIB issued 2 immediate safety recommendations to Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, and Coveting Helicopters. NCAA should issue an advisory circular to all helicopter operators flying in Nigeria to be alert to the possibility and the effect of brownout. Can you see? So this is a new circular that's gone out, an indication that a lot of people operating prior to this time didn't even realize that brownout was as dangerous as it proved in Kaba. All right. And so that explains to you what I was saying to you, that if anybody had been mindful before those helicopters started coming in, the needful would have been done. It calls for professionalism and using people that are knowledgeable in this country to do our jobs, so that we can be a better nation and better people. Now, let me quickly conclude, because I know that our time is already run out. Appropriate procedures should be put in place to mitigate its effects. AIB also recommended that Coveting Helicopters Limited should ensure that flight operations are carried out in accordance with the company's approved operations manual vis-a-vis site survey. So they didn't even survey the site before they went. They just got hired, got their money in their pockets, and just flew without really carrying out a pre-flight assessment of the landing area. Okay. And proper safety risk analysis are done before dispatching any helicopter to unapproved landing pads. Okay, did you hear this language? That's the last of what we're reading out, by the way, Arthur. Okay. If you can come back to us quickly so we can round up for the day. I take this again, so it's very important. So it's what we must take home, and our viewers can take home as well. AIB also recommended the Coveting Helicopters Limited, and indeed any other helicopter running agency in Nigeria, should ensure that flight operations are carried out in accordance with the company's approved operations manual, vis-a-vis site survey and proper safety risk analysis are done before dispatching any helicopter to unapproved landing pads. So,
I mean, it's not a helipad, it's just an open field, an open maybe playground.
That's
that
correct.
appears that after the rainy season, the grass all dried up, the kids were still playing.
That's right.
The roots, everything disappeared to make it full red soil here. And they never checked. They only arrived there and discovered that the dust overwhelmed them.
And even when they arrive, if I were one of those pilots, I'll tell you very sincerely, Arthur, I will respectfully tell Mr. Vice President, your life is in my hands, and I can land here. Mr. Vice President, I know this is going to disrupt your program, but I'm going to take you back to a safer area for landing, and maybe we do a quick logistics to get you late, but not delayed.
Correct.
You see that?
Very
you get there
correct.
late, but not getting there as delayed.
That's true. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Godwin and Ike. We'll be looking at that so much. I have some things I would have loved to ask you, because what I experienced at Sokoto was really, I thought turbulence was about cloud, was about thunderstorm, but I really saw severe turbulence here coming through the windy weather, through the very dusty weather.
Clear air turbulence.
Okay.
That's the name of what you experienced.
It was real turbulence.
Yes, clear air turbulence. You don't find it, it comes like a thief. The pilots don't find them, but if you have an appropriate equipment installed, perhaps you may pick it up in advance and then navigate your way out of it. It costs you a little more time for your landing time, and then come back on course. That's
okay.
That's where it's done.
Okay, thank you very much. Our time is fast, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We wish you the very best. We hope that the election will be holding on Saturday.
Oh, it's our hope.
By Monday, we would have seen result, expecting result, so that when we are talking next time here, we know that we will have seen result, or result would have been fully.
Our PVC is in my fireproof safe.
Thank you very much.
If the house burns down, my PVC will be safe.
Your house will not get burned down here. Okay, thanks for staying with us. Thank you very much.
Right.
We're still expecting our guests to come in here. We'll be looking at the elections here.